I'm Marian, the accounting detective. This is where we get mad about money together. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a CPA practicing in the Orlando, Florida area. And over the course of my career, I have saved my clients thousands of dollars and helped them get millions of dollars in additional business. Today, I've decided to go ahead and start bringing some of the fundamental skills that I use in my everyday practice to YouTube so that you can learn right alongside of me as I let you know in all the little ins and outs of various money topics. So let's get to it. If you find the content in this video useful, please remember to like, subscribe, and feel free to comment below on future videos you'd like to see. Do you wonder if you can get the hang of controlling your cash? You can. Today we'll start with a focus on the checking account. It's easier to start with a fundamental paper checking and then do some research to save some money before you even open the account. I'm going to give you some tips so you can go in prepared and ready to talk to your new account manager. Oh, and when I use the word bank, I am talking about either a bank or a credit union. Once your checking account is open, I'm going to go over how to read the statement you get at the end of the month and show you an easy way to reconcile your register and checks. And once you have learned this, then in my next video, I'm building on these skills and I will add in electronic banking such as debit cards and online banking and other things that are used a lot these days. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the video together. Before heading out, it's going to pay for us to do some research with Google. First of all, how close is the branch to your home or work? Do they have more than one branch? Because if you have to change jobs, you don't want to necessarily change the account. And what are the hours for the drive-through? And what are the lobby hours? Do they include Saturdays or days when you would be off from work so you can talk to the banker face-to-face if you need to? How much is the advertised monthly fee? You can save a lot of money over the course of a year by just lowering your monthly fee. Do they have online banking? We're going to cover this more in video too. And of course, what do Google and online reviewers say about them? So it's important to have a bank that is going to service your needs really easily. So you may think of some other questions, so go ahead and pause this video and use your phone camera to capture these particular questions. Now, while you're at your computer, let's prepare to meet the account representative with some money smart questions. So first of all, let's find out what the monthly checking account fees are. Are they in fact what they were advertising, and is the account that you want to open the same account? So sometimes they'll advertise it and it'll be an account you don't want. The next thing is to find out if there is a monthly paper statement fee. We're going to find a way in video 2 how to save some money on it, but for right now, you need to know what the initial monthly paper statement fee is until we can get that done. You also need to know how much an overdraft fee is. For those of you that don't know what an overdraft fee is, if you don't have enough money in the account and you write a check, the bank will charge you for even writing that check. They don't necessarily pay it. Sometimes they send it back to you unpaid, but they will charge you regardless if it comes to them and there isn't enough money in the account. So there are overdraft protection plans. Not everybody will have one. So you need to check with that institution. And if they do, sometimes it's really a great plan. And sometimes they may have a little fee that goes with that plan. So find out when you're sitting in this meeting with them. How much is a stop payment fee? You can write a check to, let's say, for your driver's license or something, and you mail it and it gets lost in the mail or it takes forever to get there. So you run down there and you write them another check. You're going to want to stop payment on that first check. Somebody may steal it and endorse it. There is a fee that banks will charge for that. You also want to find out if there is an ATM user fee. Now, we're going to cover this more in video 2, but a lot of times the ATM institution will charge a fee, and then your own bank will charge a fee. So find out from them if there is a fee for this, and second of all, if they have ATMs that can be used without a fee. Now, as a tip from a pro here, I use duplicate checks. Duplicate checks are checks that have an old-fashioned carbon that's attached to them. So if you're in a rush and you write a check and you don't have time to jot down who that check was for and how much that check was right away into your check register, sometimes you don't have it with you, you can look that information up later and you can get all those details later. So they're worth the expense of ordering those for the checks that you do write. And then also find out if the debit card has a limit for what you're charged for. If somebody gets a hold of your debit card and goes and tries to take money out of your account, some institutions, not all of them, but some institutions have a limit that they may set that says, okay, somebody uses your card and they're not authorized, we'll only charge you $50. I'll give you an example. But again, not every institution has that. So if you want to shop around a little bit, don't open the account. You can certainly take your time and go to more than one institution. Do ask for the fee schedule because they will have one and you want it, and can take it home and you can highlight it. And you also want to find out what parts of the actual written contract that they give to you are for your account. A lot of times the banks will have, all the accounts that they offer on some big master contract, and maybe only a couple of the paragraphs apply to you. So find out, have them highlighted, and explain everything to you. Make sure you get paper copies. I know that this is an electronic day and age, but you want those paper copies, and that's a great way to start out. And we'll show you later in this video how to set it up so that you can keep copies of those on hand for yourself. Good morning and welcome to Mad Marian, where you don't get mad, you get Marian the accounting detective. I'm Marian Jaklich, I'm your host today, and I'm standing outside of #not a sponsor bank, actually credit union, that I'm going to go inside with the assistance of Marta, who's the manager here, and open a physical personal account so that you have an idea of how the process is and can see the documentation and what it takes. So now we've got our temporary checks and we've got our temporary check register. So now let's go back to the desk and we'll show you how to use them. Hooray, hooray! The checks have come. So you're going to see me actually open them right now. And you will see them fresh out of the bag. And there we are. One of the most important things you can do when you get your checks is take your checks, and at the bottom of the checks there is an account number. and you want to make certain that you take the information that you have from your contracts and the account number that's on this and make sure that it agrees to the bottom of the check. So I'm going to do that here in just a moment, but I also wanted to show you that I got my register earlier. That's what it looks like, blank. I haven't filled it in yet. And of course the little plastic sleeves. So this is typical with a new checking account. And I noticed that my check numbers here at the top right hand corner actually start with 1001. So I will be showing you how to enter these into your check register when you begin your new set of checks. So now you've got your paper checks from the mail and you have your contract. I'm going to show you some really fundamental parts of keeping your records. I personally use a plastic bin. This is just an ordinary one. You can get at many of the regular retail stores that anyone shops at, whether it's Walmart or Aldi's or a lot of other places. I'm not advocating any particular brand. And for us, especially in Florida, this is to keep rain away from it. You may be in a snowy area, you may be in a dusty area. It's going to help preserve your records. People think that paper is old-fashioned. For immediate look or use, I prefer a digital copy. But if I'm going to archive something and I need to keep it for more than 2 years, I use also a paper copy of the same documents. You're also going to want some file folders as well. One of these file folders is going to actually hold the contract that you got from your institution. Now you want to make sure that you have read the consumer fee schedule and have highlighted it so that you know if there's a monthly fee, if there's a paper statement fee, because this particular module we're focusing on the paper statement for right now. And then again, things like a stop payment order for a check, if you need to have that, or if you needed temporary checks. You can go more over this with your banker. But take it and of course put it into your file folder and then just label it with, as a permanent file, we use the initials PF, and you can say bank contract and the name of the institution that you're using. And of course, just put it in your bin. You only need to go looking for it if you have a question and you need to go back to the contract. Then on the other folder that I have here, this one is ready for the paper statement fee that does come in. When we have our checkbook reconciled to the transactions that have cleared and the ones that are not yet cleared, then we will put that paper statement in this folder. And we'll go over the reconciliation itself later in this video. So now you have a good foundation of keeping records. The IRS does want you to keep it for 3 years after you file your return, at least. So I generally keep mine for close to 7 years, just to, on the offhand chance that something could come up that needs, where I need to go back to those records. So, now you've got some tips on the things that I do. As a short little story, when I was probably 10, 11 years old, I remember going to my grandparents' house, and I'd go there every 2-3 months and spend a weekend with them, and that's how they got to know their grandchildren. They would take us one-on-one and spend some specific time with us and focus on things that we wanted or needed. And we had gone to a shopping trip to pick up some school clothes, and when we came back, I noticed my grandmother was on her bed putting checks and entering into her register. And I asked her in particular, it's like, Grandma, what are you doing? So I got my education pretty early in life. I understand that not everybody gets a financial education when they're young, but that's actually what this video is for. So I thought I would share that along to you so you had just a little idea. My grandmother was a bookkeeper for the El Paso City bus lines for 32 years, and I'm of the generation where as a CPA, she would have been astounded to know that I was actually a female doing some very advanced things in her world. So anyway, it's been a fun journey. Since people think checks are very old-fashioned, let's look at some reasons why you would want to write a check. First of all, it is the strongest legal proof of payment once it has cleared the bank. And examples that you might have when you're glad you used a check: if a repair person argues that you didn't pay them, you have legal proof that you did. If you're paying a roommate and they say, hey, you gave them this money as a payment of a gift or a reimbursement, but it actually is for your rent, if you filled the check out correctly, it's a rebuttal. Or let's say you paid a parking ticket, but the county posted it to the wrong person. Again, you bring in an image of your check that has cleared your bank. You have proof of payment and also all the information that has to do with that ticket. And in my case, if I have a new repair person that I'm paying and I hire Mike to work on my car, but his name is really Miguel, then I know that his name is really Miguel and I have his first and last name. So let's move on to the next area and say, okay, when should you pay with a check rather than with a debit or credit card? They're very handy. So first of all, our earlier example, if you split the rent with a roommate for a house or apartment, or if you're paying the landlord directly, pay with a check. Make sure that they will accept a check and that you have a bank that is local. If you don't have a local bank, you're probably going to have problems getting them to accept it. Other places may accept a check when you forgot your debit card and it's damaged or forgotten. It's going to be kind of a backup to your debit card that way. If you're paying school tuition or fees, again, these can be very sizable. If you're making donations to churches or charities, sometimes it's just easier to drop a check in their donation box. Again, if you're paying something with the county or anything that is a government entity, a speeding or a parking ticket, driver's license renewals, tax payments, you're renewing your car or truck plate. And again, also if you're paying insurance, and especially if you're entering into a contract and you need to make something like a down payment on a car or a truck, you want proof that you have made that payment. So any sizable payment. And let's look at the way to write a legal check. And this is the way that you're going to be able to actually make certain that your check has all the information to keep it from being forged and has the correct information to make it legally for a very specific purpose. So you're going to start off, of course, with the date, who you're paying, make sure you have their first and last name, make sure that it's, that they're able to cash the check, because some people will ask you to use a company name, or maybe they want it made out to their parents or something. And then, of course, you're going to put in the dollar amount where the little dollar sign is. You're going to write the dollar amount out in English notation. And notice how I said in this example, I've got $60 and basically no cents. If you're going to have 5 cents or 10 cents, you would put it in there as a fraction. And also notice that I've put in these dotted lines that keep somebody from changing that check and cashing it for more than what it was written for. So you want to do that. It's a little hint to make sure that you don't get inadvertent forgery on your check. And last but not least, of course, is the actual memo field. This is the critical part to make sure that you have any account number. If you're paying a parking ticket, you want the parking ticket number. If you have a driver's license that you're renewing, write your driver's license number on that. Any account number that is specific. Now, the example that I'm showing here, I'm showing that I've got roommates and I'm paying my part of the February 2024 electric bill. So here it is. I don't have the actual account number in this example, but if they gave me one, I would certainly write it in there. Again, I'm making this out to my roommate who's going to pay the electric company all at once. And then, of course, you're going to put your signature in. So these are kind of the elements of a legal check. And then once it has cleared the bank, you're going to check to make sure that you have images that are either available to you or part of your actual bank reconciliation, depending on the institution. And that way you can find a particular check if you run into some sort of a problem with somebody that you're paying. Toby, hey buddy. You're buried in your blanket. Yes, that's what Toby does. He loves to find a blanket because he's what they call an earth dog. Yes, and this is my buddy. Aren't you an awesome guy, huh? Yes, my best bud ever. Say hi to everybody. He's like, what are you talking about? There's nobody here but you and the camera. Yeah. Yes, that's my good boy. Yes, that he is. Oh, an ear scratch. Oh, yes, a lovely ear scratch. Yes, every good dog needs an ear scratch. Okay, Guy. Thank you. Can you say hi to everybody? All right. Good night. So now you have received your statement in the mail, and it's time to reconcile. Step one, you want to have ready the following: your pencil, some erasers, you have a calculator that you can use by hand. You want to get your check register, your checks and carbons that come from checks already made, and of course the bank statement itself. Step two, once you have those, we're going to start learning the actual reconciliation. The check marks and corrections are the nuts and bolts and where all of the work is done. So let's take a look at that. Put a check mark on the bank statement when the transaction in your register and the dollar amount are the same. If they're not the same, erase the amount in your register and write in the bank amount, because obviously that's what's actually cleared your account. If it's on the bank statement and not in your register, write it into your register now and be certain to look for bank fees. A lot of times people will write their checks, but they don't realize that the bank was going to charge them. And then, of course, you want to make sure that you recalculate your totals. And as a pro tip, when you go to recalculate your totals, you want to make sure that you do it twice. Once you've done those steps and you know that your entries are all the same as what the actual bank statement has, so everything in the bank statement is now in your register, you want to double check and make sure everything is there correctly and that the math, again, is correct. Before you begin working on the actual reconciliation paper, it's good to think about your checking account almost like a T account, where on the left side you have deposits that are all pluses, and on the right side you have checks and withdrawals that are all negatives. So once you have this, you can remember what you're doing when you actually go to the bank rec. When you reconcile your first statement, you want to put at the very top the bank statement closing date. Then you want to put in deposits that have not yet cleared the statement. You want to then, underneath that, put any checks that you've written that were not on the bank statement, so that everything that you had in your register is now on this paper, and that you've added them on paper to your bank account, and you've also subtracted all of those checks. When you have finished doing this and you get a new total at the bottom, that's your bank reconcile balance, and it should also be what is in your register balance. The whole point of doing this is so that you know what the bank has in your account and has cleared, and what it doesn't have. Hi, it's Marian again here, and it's been a little while, but finally the statement has come in for the checking account that I'm using for this video, and I'm very excited. This is the first time I've had an opportunity to look at it, so we'll see if we can't look at it together and go through the steps of a reconciliation together. And with this particular institution, what's really important about this statement is that it is a beginning balance statement. A beginning balance statement is the very first one you have when you open the account, so the initial balance is zero. It's always the starting point for bank reconciliations that you do. They do show my deposit. They do show my check order. They show a second deposit that I made, and there's a withdrawal, which I'll have to find out what that is, and there's a check number. This particular institution does not give me an image of the check, so it's quite likely that I will have images of checks online, which will be video too when I go into electronic checking and more of the online type of thing. But let's take a look at this checking account together, and I'll show you a side-by-side with the statement and using the reconciliation that we talked about earlier. Congratulations! You have now learned in this video how to save money and reduce your risk at the same time. You have researched the bank, you have formed intelligent questions to ask them so that you can thoroughly understand their fee schedule before you sign on the dotted line. You can be aware of any surprise fees so they're not surprise fees for you. You know how to properly endorse a check so that other people are not able to endorse it after you and that you've restricted it to your account. You've learned when it's a good idea to actually use a formal check yourself and how to fill one out so that legally it will show the purpose and is proof of your payment as well. You have learned how to store these records so that if the IRS or some governmental agency asks you for details relating to what the returns that you file with them, then or a payment that you've made with them, you can pull those records. And even several years, say 3 years or more from now, you can go back to those records and you don't have to worry about whether or not the computer is current and whether or not the disk drive has failed on you or not. You've also seen a basic checking account statement. So now that you know that, it's not a scary thing to read, but it's a good thing to have and know at this level. And you've also learned to reconcile your checking account. Like many other skills, regular financial routine, reconciling your account every single month, making sure that you have entered in the bank fees that are going to be charged to you into your check register and have them accounted for, as well as any checks. And that, yes, there can be little differences that happen, so don't always rely just on your records. Check your bank account frequently. These are valuable skills that are going to serve you now, not only now, but in the future as well. So the more you do it, the more practiced you become, the more you will be the one who's in control of your cash. In the next video, I'm going to cover the electronic side of these transactions. I'm going to cover ATM fees, deposits, and withdrawals. I'm going to cover apps like Zelle and what happens when you use them. A lot of people have been scammed by Zelle, so we'll go over a lot of the safety features of electronic banking in the next video as well. So practice and managing your money wisely will have you controlling your cash and keeping it safe for your future. So take care, and I'll see you in the next video.